Hi, I'm Laura Mize, pediatric speech-language pathologist, and welcome to TeachMeToTalk.com's Therapy Tip of the Week. I hope that you've had lots of fun in this run-up to Easter doing lots of really cute seasonal therapy activities for your little friends on your caseloads or with your own child if you're a mom. If you haven't done that yet, don't panic. There is still time. Today I'm going to show you a really simple activity that you can use for Easter over this next week. Now we're going to be doing some Q-tip painting with some Easter eggs that we're making. Now for some of you, when you hear the word paint, you just automatically want to click off this video and move on because you're thinking it's too messy, it's too time consuming, or maybe you're a therapist and you're thinking, I know that's fun for kids and I know that's something that's developmentally appropriate to do, but I don't know how to really address my language goals within an activity like that. Well, I am here to help because I'm going to outline all of that for you here as we go. And even if you're not a speech pathologist or say you're a special instructor or a preschool teacher or a developmental therapist or whatever they call them in your state, you can still target lots and lots of other developmental domains within this one activity. So again, that's a reason that I love this kind of idea here for toddlers, especially this time of year. Let's go back and address some of those initial objections people have about painting too. The first one, and moms say this a lot, is painting is too messy. Let me tell you how to kind of overcome that. You can get washable paint, and that's going to take your number one fear kind of away there. Now, I got this set a couple days ago at Walmart. It was 10 bottles here for, I think, about $10. So a really cheap activity, and it's going to last a long, long, long time. The next thing that we can remember with painting, too, is that if we do something about covering or protecting our surface before we start, that kind of heads off any anxiety a mom might have, especially if you were doing this in a home visit. So I like to get either a child's placemat, or you can see here, this is a flexible cutting board that I also bought at Walmart. And I think it might end up being a little bit more durable than a placemat, and I think I got there were 3 or 4 in that set for $4 or $5. So take a look at getting some of those things too, because again, it does protect especially really nice furniture a little better. If you're in a situation where you don't have access to a table, I think you could still do this activity on the floor, especially if you go ahead and lay out a surface like the placemat here, or even something else, even a blanket. I've seen on Pinterest some moms use shower curtain liners, anything that you can do to kind of isolate that space so that you know that a child's not getting paint everywhere. Another tip that I use is to have all of my cleaning supplies ready before we begin the activity. So don't wait until a child has spilled paint for you to run grab a wet cloth. Have yourself some paper towels or rags or whatever you like to use. I use baby wipes for this because not only can I clean up the table, I can also clean the kid because those wipes are safe for little skin. So go ahead and think about that and prepare for that before you begin the activity. One other really helpful tip that I finally learned is to get my trash bag ready and have it at the beginning instead of waiting until the end, so we can kind of clean up as we go, or if the activity really goes south and I think, man, we need to move on, you're ready to clean up and just kind of pick up and go from there. One other thing, the biggest thing that I've done to prevent the mess too is never, ever, ever give a child unlimited access to the paint. So we're going to use just a little bit and then we're going to put it away. So if a child were here with me, I would never have this on his side of the table. I would have it over here under the table, a place where he couldn't reach. Anytime that we have the possibility that a child can have something go terribly wrong and make a horrible mess and kind of ruin the activity, a lot of that is kind of our fault because we don't plan ahead and we don't think, what can I do to limit the possibility that that kind of disaster will happen? So don't ever let a kid have free reign to the paint. Now, if you're still worried about getting paint on a child's clothes, one other thing that I've done is take old t-shirts, and again, you might take this with you to a home visit or ask a mom, you know, do you have big brother or sister's old t-shirt that we can use for this? Take some scissors and then cut just right up the back of that t-shirt, and then you can just slip that on over a child's clothes. If it makes a really big mess, you can toss it and not even worry about it, and certainly it's going to be washable if you want to keep that and use it over and over and over. If you're in an office setting, you may have that just available, and again, used from child to child. Now let's talk about the second objection with painting, and it's that it takes too much time to set up versus the benefits that you get, or versus all that you can work on with an activity. You might think, you know, I spent 45 minutes on this and he painted for 30 seconds. Let me kind of talk to you about that a little bit and say that if you do a really nice job of pulling together all your materials, you can use it time after time after time after time, and then you don't have to worry about setting that up more than one time. You've got your paint bag ready to go. Also, the materials that we're using today you usually won't have to go out and buy those once you've gotten the paint. You probably have all these things already at home. Certainly, if you are working in a family's home, these are things they probably have as well. So again, not going to be all of that time consuming. That's not really going to be an issue here. You can pull all this together pretty easily. Now, to make our Easter eggs, we're going to use some really sturdy paper. I like to use cheap paper plates for this kind of activity, and again, I think this is a pack of probably 200, and I got it for about $2. That's another kind of easy objection to overcome with not wanting to use pricey craft paper here. I love too that this is pretty sturdy, and it is going to hold up to the paint versus using something like copy paper where it takes a really long time to dry. So think about how you can use this, alter the material and make it a little easier. Now, if the child has enough fine motor coordination, you want to get him to draw the egg himself. Now, again, you're going to have to show him. You probably aren't going to be able to hand a 2-year-old a paper plate and a marker and say, draw an egg. You probably don't have anybody that could do that. So you are going to draw the first one, and that's a really important cognitive skill as well, because children should be able to, as they move toward 3, copy shapes that or really basic shapes like circles and lines that they see an adult draw for them first. So that's another great way to incorporate a cognitive goal. Again, you're also, of course, targeting fine motor skills and pre-writing skills when you're working on that. You're also doing some receptive language things. You could give some instructions about, you get another piece of paper. Now you find a marker, you draw it. So again, you're seeing how well a child can follow those verbal directions and stay with you during this kind of activity. Now, if you have a child that you think she is going to get so obsessed with that marker, she will not be able to move on, avoid that problem. You go ahead and kind of pre-draw the egg so that you don't get yourself into that kind of mess. Many times when our children have transition problems, it's because we haven't thought ahead, what's going to be this child's trigger? What can I avoid? And especially in the beginning, when you are first establishing a relationship with a child, or you are just beginning to get them to be able to sit with you and do these kinds of activities, I think we should avoid those situations. Certainly, we want to work on transitions. We want to give our children opportunities to improve their skills. But frankly, some of our little 2-year-old friends aren't ready for that. So I avoid power struggles when I can. And if I had a friend who was going to become obsessed with the markers, I wouldn't give those to her. I would have it pre-done so that doesn't become an issue. And again, once you've gotten this done, if you have a child who's developmentally ready, and again, you're really working on that fine motor piece, you may even want to let them cut the egg from the paper plate themselves. Now, I like to use toddler scissors for these. You can pick these up at Walmart or Target or anywhere like that. You'll see they're made specifically for toddlers. The top of the scissors do not open. So that really helps with children who try to overextend their fingers and can't get a good enough grip. I'm not an OT, but I will tell you some other tips that I've learned about helping children learn how to cut. Make sure that they're using both hands and not just trying to set it down like this. Talk about the concept of that helper hand. Now, you know, a lot of our little friends don't have good bilateral coordination. They don't use both their hands together, so this is a really functional, fun way to get them to target that. So get them to use their helper hand. And again, make sure their fingers, that, you know, they don't try to hold the scissors in an unusual way, and make sure they've got their fingers in the little hole. Now, not every kid on your early intervention caseload is not going to be able to use scissors, or will be able to use scissors, okay? A good guideline for me is I know that I can start this when a child is really proficient at self-feeding. So if you have a child who's not using utensils, don't try the scissors yet. He's not quite there. And certainly let me encourage you to consult an OT that you know, or more specifically the child's OT, to talk about what other tips might be helpful for that particular child. Now, the next thing we're going to do once we have our eggs ready is to get our paint ready. And I think it's really, really important with toddlers to use containers that really limit the amount of paint that you are going to do. So I like to use something like an ice cube tray or maybe a muffin pan so that the child knows there's just going to be a little bit of paint inside that hole. And then it also lets you be able to separate the colors without using, say, if you were going to put this on a piece of paper or a plate here, you could do that, but the colors may get all messy, and that may drive some of you crazy. So use something like this. Now, I have cut an egg carton in half, and I like this a lot. But even now, I'm not going to fill up every single hole with paint because I want a kid looking to decide if a particular hole has paint or not. So he's really paying attention to what we're doing during the activity. And again, don't use more than just a little bit. You can have the child select what colors he or she wants as you're going or even before you get started. And again, some of you may be thinking, well, I can't use it with my child because he or she doesn't know colors. Again, children who are not talking shouldn't know their colors yet, and that's okay. So you can even do something like choices where you're saying the color name. You know, you want pink or want yellow. And you could use anything as a choice. If they're pointing, if they're reaching, they've made a choice. If they are using a sign, like more or like please, they've made a choice. The sign for paint is really easy. I think about holding up my hand as an easel and then using my other hand to paint. Even beyond that, I think just taking an approximation of the word paint is something that for most children that you're seeing who have kind of crossed that line and who are a little bit verbal, it's certainly something they could try. So even though our word is paint here, even something like paw is a good enough approximation for a new toddler, for he or she to be able to request what you're doing. And again, whatever you're using for a child, you could even use pictures, your PEC system, if you felt like that painting is going to be something that would be really motivating. You can certainly incorporate that in. Now remember, don't use more paint, don't squeeze out more paint than you absolutely need for this activity. And some of our little friends will not be able to resist wanting to help you. So if I have a friend like that, I would never leave the paint on this side of the table. I would have it on my side of the table, and I would put it away so that they couldn't see it and so they weren't constantly trying to get at that and, again, get it all over the place. I also don't put a color in every hole, and I think I already mentioned that, so that children have to really, really watch and see which hole that they're selecting to get the paint. So next, what you're going to do after you've gotten several colors in, you're going to show the child how to paint on your Easter eggs. Now, I like to do motions that are going to be pretty easy, and I model this for them as we go so that they are seeing how I do it. And you know, we're almost able to trick a kid into imitating words that we use when we're doing this method because they think that goes with it, that talking piece, I'm supposed to do it. Or some of our little friends who may not be able to imitate on request, and by that I mean we say paint. That may be beyond their capabilities, but if we are doing something easier like saying dot, 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 you may hear a child try to say duh, duh, duh as she paints too, because again, she thinks that goes with it. She thinks that's part of the routine. So I love using simple exclamatory words as we're painting. If I'm doing big swooshes, I might say whoosh, or if I'm, you know, again, just any little word that I can think of, even a silly sound as we're painting is something that I'm going to try to do. Another thing you can do here is work in your descriptive words, and again, that's beyond naming colors. There are lots of other adjectives in this world besides the color of something. So we go for words like wet, dry, even words like icky or yucky if you have a child who is trying to touch the paint and gets it all over themselves. One other thing that I do is get a child to blow the wet paint in imitation of me. And we know from research that blowing really doesn't help a child learn how to speak more clearly or whatever those studies measured. But for me, it's about getting a child to watch me and then do what I do with my mouth, because that imitation piece is so, so critical. So that's what I look for when I'm using blowing with a very young child like this. Now remember your trash bag that you already had. When you are finished with this activity, you can do tons of receptive language practice as a child is cleaning up. So you may have them throw away the curtain and throw away the Q-tips, and again, follow all kinds of directions that you give them. Expressively cleaning up, you're also probably singing that Barney cleanup song, and even if a child is just doing ah, 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 he's still using his voice, and he's still imitating the prosody of the words that you're using as you sing. So it's still a valuable strategy there. One thing that I do when I'm cleaning up is have children who are just at the gestural level practice waving as we're cleaning up. So we may put the Q-tip in the bag, and I'm saying, oh, tell that Q-tip bye-bye, bye-bye. And I'm helping the child wave, and we're doing that together. So we're targeting both that receptive and expressive piece. We certainly also were teaching prepositions here with words like in, and as you began your activity and we're taking things out, that's certainly something you can think about and you can assess and teach as you go with helping a child learn how to understand prepositions. Now, to finish up this activity, I think that even young children really like the idea of giving a present. So you can certainly have a child present this to mom. If you're doing home visits, you can hang it on the fridge, you can tape it on the window so that everyone in the family can marvel at their youngest child or youngest siblings' new artwork. If you're in an office setting, be sure that you're doing the activity at the beginning of your session so it has time to dry. I think one thing I forgot to tell you is when you add a little water to the paint, it actually makes it easier to dry because it's not quite so thick. So try that as well. If you need more cute, cheap, and fun ideas for Easter, I would encourage you to take a look at my Easter therapy guide, and you can find the information in the link below this post. There are over 25 variations of activities for toddlers, and again, a wide range of ages, from under 12 months all the way to over 3. So check that out. And speech language pathologists, we're offering that right now for free ASHA CEUs. So don't miss your opportunity to get some free CEU credit there. All right, that's all for this week. I'm Laura Mize, pediatric speech language pathologist, and thanks for watching TeachMeToTalk.com's Therapy Tip of the Week, and happy Easter.